I'm Laura Dickinson-Turner.
And I'm Wenzel Jones.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending November 2nd, 2019. The streets of Taipei filled with a record-breaking crowd for Taiwan's 17th annual LGBTQ Pride Parade. It's estimated that more than 200,000 celebrants turned out on October 26th. That's far more than last year's 130,000. The advent of marriage equality probably bolstered the attendance. In May, Taiwan's government became the first in Asia to open civil marriage to gay and lesbian couples. There are drawbacks, however. The new laws created a separate category for same-gender couples. They also don't include provisions for transnational marriages or adoption. Nevertheless, the Ministry of the Interior reports that more than 2,100 marriages of same-gender couples have been registered in Taiwan through the month of September. Lesbian couples outnumbered gay male couples by more than 2 to 1. The South China Morning Post counted parade contingents from more than 220 groups that came from around the world. Add to that some 30 local and multinational companies. Delegations from Australia, the European Union, the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, and the U.S. joined the colorful 3.5-mile procession. Thousands waved rainbow flags. Over the top floats delighted onlookers, as did a wide array of drag queens, of course, some dressed as Pikachu and other cosplay characters. The Morning Post described young men wearing nothing more than the skimpiest of shorts. The parade's theme was "Together, Make Taiwan Better." Banners and posters stressed that voting in the presidential election would further solidify the rights that have been gained. Other banners expressed support for the pro-democracy street protests in Hong Kong.
Days of demonstrations erupted in Panama City this week. LGBTQ people have been in the streets with students, labor unions, and other progressive groups. The LGBTQ protesters are there specifically because of proposed constitutional revisions in the Central American country. The changes have already cleared a first vote in the National Assembly. One provision constitutionally defines marriage as for heterosexuals only, a clear violation of an Inter-American Court of Human Rights ruling. Its November 2017 order required the civil institution of marriage to be open to queer couples throughout the region, and that includes Panama. Panama's constitution specifically states that its provisions cannot contradict the American Convention on Human Rights. That convention was the basis for the Inter-American Court's marriage equality ruling. Dozens of mostly young protesters have already been arrested. Police were pelted with rocks and bottles during some of the frequent scuffles. Protesters were dispersed with tear gas. A few demonstrators broke windows at the headquarters of the ruling Democratic Revolutionary Party.
While all of that was happening in the streets, Panamanian National Assembly Deputy Jairo Salazar Ramirez was making his own headlines. Protesters, including LGBTQ activists, tried to enter the legislative palace. Ramirez was caught on camera saying, "We already said no to gay marriage. We will not let them in." A reporter challenged him, saying, "They are Panamanians." Ramirez replied, "No, they are gay and they cannot come in." Those remarks were quickly denounced in a statement from Ramirez's own Democratic Revolutionary Party. A few days earlier, Ramirez had bragged that a large group of evangelicals he met with was very pleased with us for defending the hetero-only marriage statute. He assured his Facebook followers that he is not homophobic. He claims that his comments were taken out of context. Panama's president, Laurentino Cortizo, indicated that he and the panel working on the draft would be open to changes. Some provisions may be eliminated. According to the news outlet La Prensa, it's thought that Cortizo was referencing the article that defines civil marriage as between a man and a woman. However, the president did not specifically say that. The proposed constitutional revisions require a second passage in the National Assembly and then approval in a voter referendum. At least 2 marriage equality cases have languished without resolution in Panama's Supreme Court of Justice.
U.S. President Donald Trump continues to roll back virtually every progressive LGBTQ rights advance made under the Obama administration. On November 1st, the blow came from the Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS. A new rule allows HHS-funded adoption and foster parenting agencies to reject applications from same-gender couples on the basis of religious freedom. Other programs affected by the change include Head Start, refugee resettlement, HIV services, and programs for seniors and homeless youth. Mara Kiesling of the National Center for Transgender Equality warned that the new rules would allow healthcare providers to use religion to justify discrimination against transgender patients. Federally funded agencies were forbidden from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity under the Obama-era policy. A statement from Trump's HHS argues that it's important to nullify that policy because it imposed regulatory burden and created a lack of predictability and stability for the department and stakeholders with respect to these provisions' viability and enforcement.
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and the far-right Family Research Council are applauding the new rules. LGBTQ rights groups are unanimous in their condemnation. Julie Cruz is the Director of Federal Policy at Family Equality. In her words, "It is outrageous that the Trump administration would mark the start of National Adoption Month by announcing a rule to further limit the pool of loving homes available to America's 440,000 foster children." Human Rights Campaign President Alfonso David called it unconscionable that the Trump-Pence administration would prioritize advancing discrimination over the well-being of vulnerable people and expect taxpayers to foot the bill for their discriminatory policies. The new rules are subject to public comment for 30 days after they are officially published in the Federal Register. However, the HHS announcement states that the Obama-era anti-discrimination protections are already not being enforced.
Here's a first for Latin America. An out lesbian has become mayor of a major city. Leftist former Senator Claudia Lopez won election in Colombia's capital, Bogotá. Lopez promises to combat corruption and advance the rights of minorities. She also wants to put more cops on the streets, end child labor, and create better educational opportunities for people over the age of 45. Lopez is also Bogotá's first female chief executive. The power of the capital's mayor is widely considered to be second only to that of Colombia's president. Iván Duque Márquez holds that office now. He is a protege of former President Álvaro Uribe, a man Lopez once described as a leech running to the sewer. Marquez's cool congratulations said simply, "For the good of Bogotá and that of all of its citizens, I wish Claudia Lopez the best in her management as mayor." The 49-year-old former journalist has been a fierce enemy of corruption and a climate change combatant. Lopez's partner is bisexual Senator Angélica Lozano Correa. They were photographed kissing following the announcement of her win. Bogotá's mayor-elect told her jubilant victory party, "This is the day of the woman. We united, we won, and we made history."
In queerly related news, the son of Argentina's president-elect, Alberto Fernandez, is a rising star in the country's drag scene. 24-year-old Estanislao goes by the stage name Daisy. He's already a famous figure in the Buenos Aires queer community. According to press reports, Estanislao works at an insurance company by day, takes classes in design, and lives with his girlfriend. In a radio interview, the president-elect described his son as one of the most creative persons in my life. In that world, which I don't know much about, he seems to be respected and very recognized. The elder Fernandez went on to say, "I feel proud for my son. My son is a rights activist in that community. He is a great man." Alberto Fernandez is a relative newcomer to politics. The center-left president-elect ousted conservative incumbent Mauricio Macri. According to the BBC, Fernandez inherits an economic crisis that has left a third of Argentina's population in poverty.
Finally, here's the latest salvo in what Pink News calls an all-out war against fast food chain ChickFilA. The Scottish LGBTQ group, Highland Pride, is entering the fray. Protests at the company's first UK outlet in England pushed its landlord to decide against renewing the franchisee's provisional 6-month lease. Then the chicken sandwich maker quietly opened an outlet at the McDonald Aviemore Resort in the Scottish Highlands with little notice. Until now. Highland Pride sent a sharply worded letter to parent company McDonald Hotels condemning their hosting an eatery with an atrocious anti-LGBTQ track record. The Atlanta-based fast food chain has a well-documented history of giving millions of dollars to anti-queer groups and programs. The letter goes on to ask if McDonald management was aware of ChickFilA's notorious homophobia before they agreed to lease space to them. At last report, the hotelier has yet to respond. An online petition demanding that the ChickFilA at the Aviemore Resort be shuttered is also gathering steam. It reads in part, "Scotland is a progressive, welcoming, and inclusive country, and businesses in the Highlands should be too."
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude for the week ending November 2nd, 2019. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, recorded at the studios of KPFK Los Angeles, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out Radio YouTube channel. For This Way Out, I'm Wenzel Jones.
And I'm Laura Dickinson Turner.